All right, today we're tackling a big one of the most common error codes you might see on your Toyota, P0335. You know, the one that makes that dreaded check engine light pop on and your heart skip a beat. So let's just dive right in, figure out what it is, and how you can fix it.
Yes, that sinking feeling. You're just driving, minding your own business, and boom, that little orange engine symbol lights up. It's so frustrating, right? And immediately your mind starts racing. What's wrong now? How much is this going to cost me?
So you grab your code reader, you plug it in, and this is what it spits out. P0335. Well, if that's the code that brought you here today, you can relax. You are in exactly the right place. We're going to break this down piece by piece.
So what is your car's computer actually trying to tell you? Let's cut through all the technical talk and get straight to the heart of what this code really means for your car. Okay, so the official definition is a crankshaft position sensor A circuit malfunction. Sounds like a mouthful, doesn't it? But here's an easier way to think about it. This sensor is like the conductor of your engine's orchestra. It watches the crankshaft spin and tells the engine's main computer exactly when to squirt fuel and when to fire the spark plugs. If that signal gets messed up or disappears, the whole orchestra just falls apart.
Now, your car can't exactly speak to you, but believe me, it will show you when something's not right. So let's talk about the common symptoms that almost always come along with a P0335 code. Probably the biggest symptom is a car that's super hard to start, or maybe it just won't start at all. That makes sense, right? If the computer doesn't know when to fire the plugs, nothing's going to happen. You might also notice your engine stalling out of nowhere, a really shaky, rough idle, or just a random loss of power when you're driving. But here's the real dead giveaway for this specific problem. You're driving, and you see your RPM gauge, the tachometer, suddenly drop to 0, even though the engine's still running. That's a huge clue. Okay, so we know the symptoms. Now for the million-dollar question. What's actually causing all this trouble? Let's start pinpointing the most likely culprits.
And this chart really tells the story. Most of the time, about 2/3 of the time, the crankshaft position sensor itself has just given up. But wait, look at that other big slice of the pie. A full quarter of the time, the sensor is perfectly fine. The problem is actually the wiring or the little plastic connector attached to it. This is exactly why you don't want to just run out and buy a new sensor without checking a few things first.
Here's an even closer look. A bad sensor and wiring problems are by far your most common causes. Then you get into the less common stuff, like a damaged reluctor wheel. That's the little toothed ring that the sensor actually reads. And in super rare cases, the whole engine computer could be faulty. But we always start with the most likely and easiest things to check first.
All right, here's our action plan. Let's walk through a super simple, step-by-step checklist you can follow to properly figure out what's causing this P0335 code.
Our whole process is just 4 basic steps, and we're starting with the easiest ones. First, find the sensor. Second, give everything a good look over. Third, we'll get a closer look at the wiring. And finally, we'll test for power. It's a logical path that can save you a ton of headache. Okay, so first things first, you gotta find the sensor. It's always going to be located down low, near the main crankshaft pulley at the front of the engine. You might even need to pop off a wheel to get a good view. Once you've found it, just use your eyes. Look for any obvious signs of trouble. Wires that are frayed, green crusty corrosion on the connector, or even little metal shavings stuck to the magnetic tip of the sensor. And this shows you exactly what you're looking for. On the left, that's what a good, healthy connection looks like, clean and secure. On the right, that's the stuff that causes problems. You could have corroded pins that aren't making good contact, wires that are frayed and about to break, or insulation that's been rubbed raw against another part. Any one of these can kill the signal and trigger that code.
So what if you do a little more digging? You grab a multimeter, you test the connector, and you find out there's no power getting to the sensor at all. This is a huge clue because it immediately tells you to stop blaming the sensor and start looking at its power source.
And here is a golden piece of advice. Before you start thinking you have a major wiring nightmare on your hands, check your fuse box. It sounds too simple, right? But the circuit for this sensor has a fuse, and a simple blown fuse is an incredibly common reason for seeing no voltage. It could be the easiest fix you ever do.
Okay, so you've done all your detective work. You've followed the clues. Now let's move from finding the problem to actually fixing it and getting that check engine light to turn off for good.
So, if you've inspected all the wiring, you've made sure the connector is clean, and you've confirmed all your fuses are good, well, then all the evidence is pointing to one culprit. The crankshaft position sensor itself is bad. It's time to replace it.
And you know what? Here's the good news. This is not going to be an expensive fix.
Not at all. You can usually pick up a quality new sensor for just 20, maybe 30 bucks. For a check engine light problem, that is an absolute bargain.
Now, once you swap out that old sensor for the new one, you're not quite done. There are a couple of really important final steps. First, you have to use your scan tool to clear the P0335 trouble code from the car's memory. Then, you got to take it for a test drive to make sure it's running right and, more importantly, to make sure that light stays off.
So let's do a quick recap. P0335 means there's a problem with your crankshaft position sensor circuit. You're probably seeing symptoms like stalling or a car that won't start. The biggest lesson here is to always check the easy stuff first, the wiring and the fuses, before you spend any money on parts. Most of the time, it's just a bad sensor, and thankfully, it's a simple and very affordable fix.
With all this information, that check engine light isn't some scary mystery anymore. It's just a puzzle. And now you have the guide to solve it. So, you ready to go tackle this thing?